BK here, Nate Jackson's alongside, but want to remind you, Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants will help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So go to trustedamerican.com to see how much you can save today. That's trustedamerican.com.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Look at that.
wow.
He's not Liv Moods, neither am I. That's Nate Jackson. I'm BK. We're going to jump right into our latest episode of Off Field. I guess latest because it's now.
Yeah,
This episode
most
of
recent.
Off Field. It'll be the most recent after we're done taping. But busy day in Broncos country, busy couple days because not only do you have the final game, locker cleanout. We're going to bring you a little bit of the sights and sounds from that because had some interesting news, a revelation, if you will, and then in less than an hour, Sean Payton, George Payton, Greg Penn are all going to meet the media down at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirits. They're going to race down there, and then we'll have all that stuff for you on all of our social channels, as well as on Friday's Off Field. We'll look back at some of the highlights from that, as well as look ahead to divisional round, second weekend of the playoffs. So, Nate, do we just want to jump right into the biggest news that came
I
out
think we
of
should.
locker cleanout? And the one interesting thing, because you did locker cleanout a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
The Broncos, as part of the evolution of the PA not wanting everybody in the locker room, so it's the players, not the team. And so they had the screen or the step and repeat backdrop in the hallway right outside the locker room. It was used, I would say, about 40% of the time, maybe less, because guys are just like, let's just do it at my locker. It was just easier. They didn't feel like their space was overly violated beyond us already being in there. But so some were at the at the backdrop, and then some were at their locker.
Yep.
But I didn't expect Bo Nix to talk because he talked Sunday, and we just typically don't see a quarterback talk the next day because of how they kind of protect quarterbacks. And just he had said plenty. We even asked him, hey, we may not talk to you. So what's your offseason plan or this or that? But Bo Nix dropped this on us on Monday, and I think everybody was certainly surprised when he shared this info about his injury status.
The Vegas week was just, I had a little, transverse process fracture in my back. But that week got treatment and kind of made it through to that week. Monday Night Football, it was a stretch that we were all kind of banged up. And, I wasn't going to miss the first Monday night game. So I got treatment on it, and then we were fortunate to have an off week that next week. And, kind of went away after that. But for that moment, it was, annoying, but we all play with annoying
It was
things.
the Raiders game at the Raiders?
Yeah, got, twisted up a little bit, had 3 process fractures, but a lot of guys play with a lot of those kind of things.
There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think I'm just going to dive right into it because, number one, he shared that. He decided to share that, which is pretty unusual. And you said you weren't expecting him to talk. So maybe he wanted to share that. Maybe these are things he wanted people to know, which is, Bo is very careful with his words. He's very smart about what he says. He knows what to say, what not to say after a game in media availability. So the fact that he mentioned that with that kind of detail, very interesting to me. He's right. Guys do play with that sort of stuff all the time. Bo's tough as hell. Nobody's questioning that. My concern is that, look, do you know what the average NFL career is?
3 years, they say?
Less now. It's
Now
2.8.
less. Whoa.
And that is directly correlated to the fact that guys play with that shit all the time. I think that someone at that facility needs to save Bo from himself when it comes to playing with 3 fractures in his back. Now, I'm anxious to hear your rebuttal here because
I'm just reading about how it's characterized.
Look, what on Wikipedia? Give me 3 fractures, okay, that you saw on an X-ray in your back as a rookie going into Cleveland in year 1. I understand that it was exciting. This is a young and hungry team. And really, like, his teammates love that he's able to grit it out and go do that. But I'll also say this. He just said he was able to get through the week, which means that it was a tough week for him at practice. which for a quarterback, if you have a tough time getting through practice as a quarterback, you're pretty fucked up because you don't have to hit. You don't have to really sprint. All you have to do is do drops and hand the ball off and do some rollouts. It's not a very strenuous process as a quarterback at practice. Practice is pretty easy for a quarterback. Bo had a hard time getting through it. If I'm his teammate, I'm watching Bo struggle through practice in the training room, getting treatment, probably getting needles, probably getting drugs for this matchup. I love his toughness. I'm looking at him like, man, what a baller. I can get behind him. But in the same breath, I look at Coach Payton and I think, why the fuck are you letting him do this? Sean Payton, and really a lot of this is dawning on me after seeing the way they played against the Bills. This is not the Broncos' year. They had a goal to get to 10 wins and to make the playoffs. They did that. My question is, at what cost? Now, he seems to have healed. Okay, great. But what we don't want is our franchise quarterback dealing with chronic back issues and then it turning into a promising career that was cut short by injury. Bo's style of play, I wouldn't call it reckless, but it's dangerous. He gets out of the pocket. He runs. They utilize his legs. You're going to put him in harm's way. Someone there, in my opinion, needed to protect him from himself and tell him to sit that game. You got Jarrett Stidham, who has starting experience, and Zach Wilson, both of whom are capable backups. You kept them both for a reason. Going into Cleveland wasn't a great team. I know you had to win that game, and they found a way to do that. I need to stress that it's not just about how tough he is and how great that is. The player always wants to play.
Sure.
Always.
Sure.
You got to have people in the organization who pull him back. That's what I think about that.
The old saying is, you never come across someone that used to have a back problem.
Right. I mean, you got one.
I've got one. I don't know if I had transverse process fractures, but years of just wear and tear, whether high school sports and football and wrestling and life after that and working out and playing a million just basketball pickup games and leagues and football, it all adds up when you get to your 40s anyway. But I didn't have that in my early 20s. I get that I'm not playing quarterback in the NFL. I didn't play 6 years of college, but a transverse process fracture, as some of us call it, a TPF, it's a break in the bony extension on the side of the vertebrae, most common in the lower back, can occur anywhere on the spine, caused typically by a blow to the back or a fall. He said he got wrenched. And I think our pal Parker Gabriel went and found it. So if you go to Parker's Twitter, like on this play, it looks like that's probably where it happened. Forceful contraction of the paraspinal muscles, a vertical shear of the pelvis, high intra-abdominal pressure. Any of that can cause it. Pain is a symptom. It may worsen difficulty moving, depending on the severity of the fracture. So I'm not trying to minimize the idea of a back injury, but there's a chance that hearing it makes it sound scarier than what, and it really was just back soreness, tightness with the bony extension on the side of the vertebrae, but not a fracture all the way through. Like, he needs to have back surgery. Like Tony Romo.
Right.
Tony Romo had a back surgery after that game in Seattle, which I want to say was a preseason game. Yeah, that's what ended his career. He gets hit in a preseason game. Dak Prescott starts, and they go on, obviously, a great run during the season. Tough loss to the Packers, and Tony Romo never plays another NFL snap. And that wasn't the first time he'd hurt his back. He'd already had back surgery. Tony Romo, I talked to him the other day because we were talking about skiing. And he skis now because he can't snowboard anymore. He's like, I've had too many back surgeries. Again, that's Tony Romo in his 40s, not Bo Nix in his mid-20s.
I can't picture Tony Romo snowboarding. Are you kidding me? He's a skier.
He seems like a skier, but he said he used to snowboard.
Okay.
He said he used to snowboard. But I think the bigger point is if there was some question, that's on the team and his teammates to say, you have to sit this out. We'll go win it for you. You look at his numbers against the Browns, he wasn't great, threw a couple really bad picks. Now, not as bad as Jameis's picks, but he was 18 of 35. So that's about 50%, well below his average in terms of completion percentage. 294 yards, but that wasn't all air yards. And then he only ran the ball 3 times for 4 yards. And those might have been some knees at the end. Now they do the math. So he didn't get out of the pocket and try to go like we've seen.
Right.
Plenty.
So all the more reason not to play him if he can't play his game. Why do you need him to tough it out in the middle of year one? Here's what I, Sean Payton knew, as exciting as this season was, Sean Payton knew that this team was not a Super Bowl contender. It was revealed against the Bills how far this team has to go. They're not there. They're not even close. But they're young and hungry. This was the first step, right? You make the playoffs, you get to 10 wins. We are building something for the future. You have to protect this asset. You want this guy here for 10, 12, 15 years. You don't want him here for 3. You don't want him here for 6, which is what my career was. And I played with all kinds of stupid crap like that. And by year 6, my body was broken. It was beyond repair. I washed out of the league because my body, I had the skill set.
Your body failed you.
My body failed me. And that's what I don't want to happen to Bo. As much as I want Bo to feel like he is one of the guys, and he is one of the guys, he's not one of the guys in regards to his position, how difficult it is to find that guy, how it took the Broncos 9 years to get a guy like Bo. You finally have him, and you're putting him in a position to have to play through, as much as it's minimized as not a big deal. There are 3 fractures in your spine. And if those don't heal right, or you get torqued again, or you favor it one way or the other, it can create a domino effect, and a lot of things can go wrong. Not only that, they were giving him drugs, no doubt, throughout the week, and maybe that game, pills, maybe needles. Do you want your quarterback to develop a pill habit? Do you want him to develop a dependency on the needle before the game? And then you just mentioned his style of play changed that game. You want Bo Nix's style of play to change and become vulnerable in the pocket with a rookie back there who's still learning how to process and see things. Bo has a tendency to get out of the pocket a little early. We saw that late in the season, and that's fine. That's what a rookie does. But Bo didn't have that ability that week to get out of the pocket. So he's even in more danger. One wrong move, one torque here, one torque there, and you're dealing with something more serious. I think you have to think about the longevity of what you're trying to create here and be smart about it. Like I said, the player always wants to play. He always wants to go, no matter what, because your value and the perception of you is how tough you are. That's what football is about. But he earned that from his teammates, and his teammates know that. He has nothing to prove to his teammates. The organization, the medical staff, in my opinion, needed to sit him out on that one if you have 3 fractures that you can see on an X-ray.
I think if it's not the first question that's going to be asked to Sean Payton today, it will be very early. It'll probably be asked to George Payton as well. I don't know if this one comes up to Greg, because Greg will just typically say, well, we'll leave that to our football staff anyway. 2 things, though, because I want to ask you, what would you ask Sean about Bo? Would you ask about the back? Or if you have a question, because I'm going to be down there at the press conference here in just a little bit, what interests you most about Sean and Bo going into the offseason?
Yeah, I think what areas of improvement, do you want to see from Bo going in from year 1 to year 2? We saw the things that he does well. Very competitive, obviously very tough, can run, took some people by surprise with his
including
legs.
His coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think he rushed for almost 500 yards. No, in my opinion, no questions about his arm strength anymore. So it's really about comfortability in the pocket, in my opinion, and being able to step up in the pocket on 3rd and long and not try to escape when he feels the pressure, but find a way to, take side steps and create time for himself while staying in the pocket. But I would want Sean Payton to answer that question and see how he would want Bo to improve going into year 2. But I'd also ask him, in the nicest way possible, why he played that game.
Yeah.
Why you thought that was the right move to have him play in that game when you knew that he had 3 fractures, and you knew in hindsight, because Sean Payton's been around a long time. He knows this wasn't a Super Bowl contending team. As much as we all convince ourselves maybe it could happen, Sean's been there. He's been in every single playoff scenario. He knows what a Super Bowl winning team looks like. And this young team is not battle tested enough to make that run. And so why put your future quarterback at risk to prove? Whoa, what were you
I think without even being there yet, we can almost guess that Sean's going to say,
he's cleared by the medical staff.
Cleared by the medical staff.
And he said he wanted to go.
And he said he wanted to go, so we were going to let him play because he was cleared. And it wasn't just his decision. We're going to get a pretty political answer on that probably. Yeah. So it's going to take more conversations with people around the team, more conversations with people around Bo. And then we'll find out, was it more severe or was it not as big a deal as it certainly could be or may be?
This is a pain tolerance issue. And of course he said it was annoying and it's going to be downplayed as not a big deal because he was able to get through it. But 3 fractures that show up on an X-ray, I think that's
Three more
hard
than
to
he had before.
downplay that
Yeah,
because
sure.
when it's a soft tissue thing and you don't get an MRI, how bad is it? Because it's up to you and how much you can endure. This is a pain tolerance issue. But when you go get an X-ray and they see 3 breaks or 3 fractures,
Yeah.
you can't say it's not a big deal,
Right.
because your bone snapped
Right.
in three different places. So, okay, now we have to treat it correctly. And I think it's really important. And I think there's a reason why Bo mentioned it this week. And I think it's because he, in hindsight, is thinking the way I am right now. Like, what was I doing? We weren't ready to make a Super Bowl run. Yeah, we made the playoffs. And yes, each game feels like a Super Bowl when you're in it. He just said, I wasn't going to miss my first Monday Night Football game, But what we don't want is for him to miss the next 20 and the ones that really matter in 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, when Bo's in the sweet spot of his career. That's what I'm wanting to protect here. So I think that asking Sean some questions that kind of scratch at that would be interesting.
One more Bo-related thing from your favorite media outlet, Pro Football Focus. They rated the highest graded rookies of the weekend.
Oh.
So without even looking, you probably think Jaden Daniels, his team.
No, it's
wins.
probably Bo, right?
Well, it's Ladd McConkey first in a loss.
Oh, okay. I thought
he
it
was rated
quarterbacks.
first, 91.6. Kamari Lassiter in a win. He had a pick of Justin Herbert, at least one, 89.5. Bo Nix, the third best rookie, 85.6. Jared Verse, who had a monster game. His team, obviously, 9 sacks. He was the 4th best rookie. So Jaden Daniels wasn't even rated in the top 4.
That's just
I have a hard time
Yeah.
with Bo Nix. I understand he didn't turn the ball over. He wasn't sacked too much. He didn't fumble. He didn't throw interceptions. I get that. They scored 7 points as an offense. So your grading system is a little skewed. The Chargers scored, I think, 12 as an offense. Yes, Ladd McConkey had 6 of them, including an 87, 89-yard touchdown and 197 or whatever it was, 197 yards with the score. But your grading system's a little off when you're the win has to factor in, so especially at the quarterback. So there's that. You mentioned where this team is headed, and a couple of vets, 2 of the better at their position, although Garrett Bowles doesn't make All-Pro. He probably was close. Quinn Miners does make All-Pro.
How do you pronounce that name?
I believe it's pronounced Miners.
Okay.
He first team All-Pro. He's the best right guard in football. Some of that may have been just a byproduct of Zach Martin getting hurt, because Zach Martin has won that honor 7 or 8 years in a row. Nonetheless, Quinn Miners is the best right guard in football, according to the AP. And he looked back on, obviously, what was a positive season for he and the Broncos. It's coming. I see it. Here comes Quinn.
I think we created a new floor of standards for this building, for the position groups, and for this team moving forward. We're looking to build off of what we did this year, and that is by setting the standard again of what we got to this year, and getting into OTAs, training camp and stuff. That's where we're going to build off of, and we need to start from there. And it's going to be on us as some of the captains and leaders to make sure that we're going in those right directions.
Can I just mention something about football players, and what a sweet guy? Like you listen to him talk, and just like the kindest,
He's
sweetest.
nice Wisconsin guy.
Yeah, I mean, he would be so polite. You bring him to a dinner, he would just charm everyone with his manners, and then the duality of these men. You get him out on the football field, and he turns into an absolute killer. This guy could kill everyone in your extended family with his bare hands in under 2 minutes. If you were to come to a family gathering and decide to choose violence, he could really raise havoc. But he's such a sweet guy, such a kind guy, and it shows the sort of dichotomy between.
Steve Atwater is the ultimate example of that. His comment though about raising the floor.
Yep.
I think everybody in Broncos country appreciates that, but also understands, that's the floor that we're used to around here.
Mm-hmm.
Making the playoffs every year, contending for the division, being in the conversation of, this team can win a Super Bowl. They're one of our 8 or 10 teams in the league that can win a Super Bowl. Quinn Miners is exactly right. The floor has been raised, and now it's your job to raise it even more, but also push that ceiling up so that we're not just talking about, of course, the Chiefs, of course, the Bills, of course, the Ravens, and if they can figure the defense out, the Bengals too, because of the guy they have at quarterback. To be in that conversation every year, not the conversation that they're having in LA with what's wrong with Justin Herbert? Is he a modern day Phillip Rivers?
Yeah.
And some of these other, can Tua and the Dolphins get it figured? No, your trajectory is up, and I think Quinn nailed it there. Then a guy who's suffered through 7 years of no playoffs and his own ups and downs, but was rewarded with another big contract and earned it by how well he played at left tackle. Garrett Bowles reflected on Monday's Clean Out the Lockers on this year as well.
I think we've done a lot of great things this year. I mean, we made the postseason for the first time in 8 years of my career since I've been here. That just tells you how old I am. But no, this team is special, man. I think we have a lot of special dudes. I think we have a young quarterback, which, you know, when you have a quarterback in this league, you can go a long ways. And I think he's just, you know, scratching the surface of what he can do for this team. We have playmakers, we have ballers on this team. We have guys that want to be successful, that want to go as far as we can. You know, obviously yesterday is a game that, you know, none of us want to be a part of. We got smacked right in our faces, and there's only, you know, there's two ways you can look at it. You either can look down and just let it drag you down, and, you know, everything that we built this year and we get into next year and just we fall apart, or we can look at this and we can build upon it. And I think that's what all of us want to do, is we want to build upon it. We want to be successful. We want to continue to work harder. Starts in the off season on how we train, and we go from there.
Palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on her sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. Slim Shady's been eating a little bit. He's not so Slim Shady anymore, but that hair makes him look like Eminem. I do want to mention something about the offensive line in general, and you mentioned it right after that Quinn Miners clip about raising the floor, you know, raising the standard, and it always was that way. The Shanahan years was highlighted, you know, the running game, but really the offensive line and the cohesion, and Alex Gibbs and his ability to get these guys moving as one in one direction. And I think finally there's some symmetry on the offensive line, and I think we would all agree maybe a center you would look at, but really this offensive line is taken care of going into the offseason. This is the starting unit that we feel good about, and when you have that and you don't feel like you need to add or upgrade or change pieces going into a new season, it's a good feeling, and the Broncos should feel very good about the offensive line they have, the way they've come together, the way they play as a unit, and the way they protected their young quarterback, Brandon.
Yeah, I think that the O-line is one of the bright spots, and credit to Sean Payton. He did it in New Orleans. He fortified the offensive front, defensive front. Zach Allen came along with Vance Joseph. That was one of their signings. The trade for JFM was big, and I think DJ Jones played well enough that it's worth at least exploring. Do you bring him back on another multi-year deal, or do you just look for players similar? But Jonathan Franklin Myers and Zach Allen are the two building blocks you feel really good about in the primes of their career. You want to add depth behind them. You like what Malcolm Roach gives you as a depth piece, and then you've got guys like Matt Henningsen and Inyoma Uwazurike, but they're in good shape on both sides of the ball, but especially where they've paid guys up front on the offensive line. We'll see how much longer Mike McGlinchey, who was much better with Bo Nix than he was with Russell Wilson. And it makes you believe Sean Payton when he tells you quarterback sacks or sacks are often a quarterback stat as much as anything else. Speaking of Russell Wilson, we're going to get into something that has come out regarding our pal Russ. But first, I, of course, want to tell you about our friends at Trusted American Mortgage. How'd you like to get out of your holiday season and save a little bit of money without having to make a mortgage payment? Go to trustedamerican.com and see how they can help you refinance your home, and you won't have to make payments perhaps for a couple of months. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants they're going to do their best and may help you find a better interest rate that will lower your monthly payments. And right now they'll cover the cost of your appraisal. That's $650.
Wow.
You can go to trustedamerican.com, or the times that you see the QR code on our various shows, you can click on that QR code. This is not one of those times where I point to it. But regardless, if you come across a QR code,
you got this.
Then you should definitely click on it. But just go to trustedamerican.com.
Trustedamerican.com. You can do that.
There you go.
QR
Right
code.
down there.
There it is.
There. Trustedamerican.com. Good work, Chloe, on the other side of the glass, helping us out. Before we get out of here, news and notes around the league quickly. Arthur Smith just finished an interview with the Bears. It's now being reported out of Pittsburgh. Maybe he and Russ did get along as well as we thought. Weren't thick as thieves. There are stories that their wives were inseparable and their families couldn't even get them away. And what's funny about that real quickly is we know who Sierra is. She's a big star. Arthur Smith, now not knowing his wife, but knowing his family, is you have to be reminded Arthur Smith is the richest coach in the NFL. He's worth $500 million, a little more now. I think he's worth $600 million on paper because his dad invented a company called FedEx, Frederick W. Smith. Arthur is, I think, one of the youngest. He's not the youngest, but he's one of the younger ones of the 10 kids, and it's a family that's close. I know some of the other siblings. They're all going to inherit their fair share. It's not people aren't getting aced out or whatever. So he's going to inherit $600 million. Thus, his wife isn't just the coach's wife. She's also a future potential billionaire. So maybe that's why she and Sierra, they both understand the finer things in life and private aviation and everything else. But are you surprised to hear that Russ and Arthur Smith maybe didn't get along so well?
No, I think that Russ has had a little bit of friction with all, his offensive coaches because of the way that Russ plays. It flummoxes the coach who calls the plays and hopes that he sees what he's been taught to see throughout the week in installation and practice and walkthroughs and everything you do as a quarterback and as an offense in the NFL to prepare for a game. We prepare for certain looks, and when we see those looks in the game, we have answers to them. We've all been given the answer, and we all expect the quarterback who distributes the ball to know that answer and to give it to the guy we taught him to give it to during the week, and that he did give it to during the week in practice when we showed him those looks. Russell doesn't do that. Russell goes through the week, does it what he's told, and then in game time, he's a wild card, and he doesn't follow those reads. He doesn't follow the script and the things that we were taught. And so I think that's incredibly frustrating for offensive coaches, and it's not surprising to me that he's having a little friction with Arthur Smith.
A couple other pieces of news around the league. Cowboys didn't fire their coach. Contract runs out. They part ways with Mike McCarthy and his entire staff. And the reason I'm bringing that up is Jerry doesn't like paying multiple coaches, doesn't like paying people that don't work for him. There's some reporting out there that Mike McCarthy was being asked to reduce the number of coaches on his staff. So with that as the premise, I know how much Jerry likes Deion and vice versa. The idea that Jerry's going to cut a check for $10 million to the University of Colorado seems unlikely, or to the University of North Carolina. They're interviewing Robert Saleh. I'm sure they're going to do at least 5 to 10 interviews. They did that even the first time around.
The Cowboys? Robert Saleh, I cannot see that.
No, but he's interviewing with them. How surprised were you that the Cowboys moved on? And if Deion is the odds-on, he's not the odds-on favorite right now. Kellen Moore is the odds-on favorite at 44%. Deion's 22%. Do you think that's not necessarily leverage, but Deion talking to a friend, whatever? And by the way, there's already an extension on his desk that has been added. He originally 5 years. I think it's 5 more for more money.
And he hasn't signed it.
Hadn't signed it yet.
I don't think this is about leverage. I think this is a real thing. I think that now more than ever, and with the Cowboys as well, self-promotion and splash hires are interesting to a guy like Jerry Jones. Maybe he thinks he can actually influence Coach Prime and more than a hardened seasoned coach can exert some collaborative control, if you will. If you bring in a hard-headed, but a seasoned coach like Bill Belichick, for example,
it'll be similar to Parcells.
Yeah, Jerry Jones would say no, or Bill would say no, you can't. You can't be in here in this meeting. You can't tell me what to do personnel-wise. Well, maybe Coach Prime would allow some of that because he understands where there's a blind spot. He doesn't have all the answers necessarily yet, but he is a great motivator, a great inspirer, and someone who would bring a whole lot of eyeballs and attraction to the Dallas Cowboys franchise. So I don't think this is just leverage. I think this is something that's possibly in the works.
I guess we'll see how that plays out. We'll see what the Raiders do at GM.
Can you throw the comments up there real quick? A real quick one. Someone said, Nate, you're ruining the game. It's about entertainment, not about health. Gladiators fight. Are you not entertained? Yeah, I agree. But don't you want Bo Nix entertaining you for the next decade and not for 2 or 3 more years and being chronically banged up and having to take drugs to get on the field and being a shell of himself, not being able to get out of the pocket, not being able to pick up first downs with his legs, always grabbing at his back, sitting in the ice tub, depressed about the game of football, losing motivation, becoming a less inspired leader? Is that what you want, Eric? I didn't think so. We're trying to look out for the future of these Broncos. And if we want to win a Super Bowl, we're going to need Bo Nix healthy.
Absolutely. We will find out about his health in 30 minutes. We're going to see Sean Payton, George Payton, Greg Penner all meet the media down at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. Make sure you're locked into all of our social channels, as well as my Twitter at BK Denver Sports. I'll be putting some of the comments out in print form. We will have all the video for you that is relevant on all of our social channels. So stay locked into that. Friday, Nate and I will recap that, as well as preview the divisional round weekend. Thanks for rocking with us. Thank you, Chloe. For our friends at Trusted American, he's Nate Jackson. I'm BK. We will catch you next time on Guerrilla Sports Off Field.